Nkechi had never imagined that the people who were supposed to love her most would one day treat her like a stranger, worse, like a burden. After her father's sudden death, life took a bitter turn. Her stepmother, Madame Ifeoma, and her half-siblings, Chuka and Amara, wasted no time in showing their true colors. The house that had once been filled with laughter and warm Sunday stews now echoed with cold commands and resentful glares. Wash the clothes, Nkechi. Have you finished scrubbing the floors? Why are you still standing there like a tree? Every morning, Nkechi woke up before the sun, her hands raw from endless chores. She would cook meals she was never allowed to eat, clean rooms she was forbidden to sleep in, and serve guests who barely noticed her bowed head and tired eyes. Madame Ifeoma always found something wrong: a speck of dust on the window, a wrinkle on the bedsheet, a delay in serving food. And for every mistake, Nkechi paid with insults that bruised deeper than any slap could. Meanwhile, Chuka and Amara lived like royalty. They wore the finest clothes, attended the best schools, and spent money like water, money Nkechi suspected her father had left behind for all his children. Yet she was never asked about her needs, never offered even a kobo. At night, Nkechi cried into her thin, worn pillow. She thought about her late father and the promises he used to make. "I'll always protect you, my daughter. No one will ever mistreat you as long as I'm alive." But he wasn't alive anymore, and in his absence, her world had crumbled. Still, somewhere deep inside her heart, Nkechi clung to a stubborn hope, a tiny, burning ember that whispered, "This is not the end of your story." She just didn't know yet how true and how powerful that whisper would be. The more Nkechi obeyed their commands, the more invisible she became to them, or so they thought. One evening, after an exhausting day of scrubbing and cooking, Nkechi accidentally overheard a conversation that froze her in place. She had been carrying a basket of laundry past Madame Ifeoma's bedroom when she heard her name whispered sharply. "That girl must never find out," Madame Ifeoma said, her voice low but urgent. "But Mama," Amara protested, "what if someone else tells her? We can't hide it forever." "Foolish girl," Madame Ifeoma snapped. "By the time anyone knows, it will be too late. The house, the land, even the shares, they'll all be in our name. Nkechi will have nothing but the rags on her back." Nkechi stood there, heart hammering against her ribs, a cold sweat breaking over her forehead. Shares? Land? Her father had always been secretive about his finances, but she had assumed it was because they didn't have much. Had he left something behind after all? The realization came like a slap. They weren't just mistreating her. They were hiding something. Something big. From that moment, Nkechi began to watch and listen more carefully. She noticed the frequent visits from lawyers, the hushed meetings behind closed doors, the strange way Madame Ifeoma would quickly end phone calls whenever Nkechi entered the room. One afternoon, while dusting the living room, she stumbled upon a letter tucked carelessly behind the bookshelf. The name at the top sent a jolt through her body: Barrister Chukwudi and Associates, Re. Estate of late Mr. Okeke, Nkechi's father. Her hands trembled as she carefully folded the letter back into place. She needed to be smart. If they found out she knew, they could throw her out before she uncovered the full truth. But now Nkechi was awake. She wasn't going to sit quietly anymore. If they thought she was weak, they were about to be very surprised. Nkechi played the role of the obedient servant a little longer, but every day, her eyes were sharper, her ears keener. She needed proof. And then, as if the universe heard her prayers, an opportunity came. One stormy Friday evening, the family left for a party at a local senator's mansion. They trusted Nkechi to stay behind and mind the house as usual. But this time, Nkechi had a plan. She raced to Madame Ifeoma's room, searching carefully. Inside a locked drawer, which, thankfully, Madame had lazily left the key hanging on a hook, Nkechi found a brown envelope marked Confidential, Last Will and Testament. Her hands shook as she pulled out the contents. The words were clear. Mr. Okeke had left everything to Nkechi. The house, the lands in Enugu and Asaba, the shares in a top oil company, even a substantial amount of cash in several bank accounts. Everything. The so-called relatives were only caretakers, meant to protect Nkechi until she came of age. Instead, they had turned into vultures, feasting on what wasn't theirs. Tears welled up in her eyes. Not just from the betrayal, but from the love her late father had still shown her, even after death. He had believed in her. He had planned for her. And now she owed it to him and herself to claim what was hers. With evidence secured, Nkechi wasted no time. Early the next morning, she visited the law firm listed on the will. Barrister Chikwudi, a kind-faced elderly man, confirmed everything. "My dear child," he said, looking at her with a mixture of pity and admiration, "we've been waiting for you. We even tried to reach out, but it seems your family blocked every effort." That same week, legal action began. Letters were sent. Summons were issued. The vultures received news that hit them like thunderclaps. Nkechi was no longer the poor servant girl. She was the rightful heir. And she was taking back everything. The day Nkechi officially reclaimed her inheritance was one that no one in town would ever forget. Clad in a simple but elegant white lace dress, she walked into the family house, no longer timid, no longer the servant. Behind her were Barrister Chikwudi and 2 court officers, carrying official documents. The so-called relatives had gathered in the parlor, their faces a mixture of panic and disbelief. Madame Ifeoma tried to fake a smile. Uncle Jude mumbled an excuse about misunderstandings. Auntie Ngozi pretended to faint. It was too late. Nkechi watched them quietly, her heart heavy but firm. These were the people who mocked her for eating their leftovers. The people who wore her late mother's clothes like rags. The people who made her scrub floors while they lived off her father's sweat. Now it was over. "I am not here to beg," Nkechi said, her voice calm but cutting through the room like a sword. "I am here to reclaim what was mine all along." By the end of the day, they were served formal eviction notices. They had 30 days to vacate the house. No arguments. No excuses. But Nkechi wasn't cruel. True to her father's spirit, she offered them a small financial settlement to start their lives anew, a final act of mercy for people who had shown her none. Word of her victory spread quickly. Old neighbors who once pitied her now looked at her with admiration. Nkechi didn't stop there. She began managing her father's investments, working with honest advisors, growing her wealth even more. And she gave back. She renovated the community school. She funded scholarships for orphans. She opened a shelter for girls who had been abused or neglected, just like she once was. The once forgotten girl who was treated like a housemaid had become a powerful force of hope and inspiration. One afternoon, as she sat in her father's favorite armchair, looking out over the land he left her, Nkechi smiled for the first time in years. "Papa, I hope you're proud of me," she whispered. Because now, she wasn't just the girl who survived betrayal. She was the woman who conquered it. Nkechi, the queen they could never break.